642, you know, we put journalism first here at WWL Louisiana, and here on the Morning News, we are excited to tell you about a new partnership we're launching today with Gulf States Newsroom to highlight some of the stories they are covering that might be of interest to you. This week, they've got a new article about a Native American tribe over in southern Plaquemines Parish. The people of Grand Bayou Indian Village lost their land more than 100 years ago, but now that land has returned. A lot of it's been returned to them, and we wish the story could stop here, but they may be at risk of losing it again, this time to coastal erosion. Joining us this morning, one of the reporters who broke this story, Drew Hawkins. Drew, a pleasure to speak to you this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So first, I'll ask you, how'd you come across this story?
Well, I actually was contacted by the Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana, CRCL. They do a lot of great work around coastal land loss, and they work really closely with this tribe, the Atacapa-Ishak-Shawasha tribe, building oyster reefs in their native plants program to help slow that loss. And they learned that the church that technically owned the land was going to donate it to the tribe, so they contacted me, and I brought my reporting partner, Danny MacArthur, and we went down there and covered the story. It was a really amazing thing to witness.
Yeah, and just the fact, tell us the story of these mounds. I'm going to keep my words to myself. You tell us about these mounds and what were they used for and how they built them.
Sure. So many native tribes call themselves mound builders. They all could be different based on the location. Sometimes they could be burial mounds. In this instance, this was a mound made of shells and shards of pottery built up in a really coastal, swampy area. And as the tribal elder, Rosina Philippe, told me, the tribe would go to these areas when the river would naturally flood, as it does, and then they'd wait for the waters to recede and return back to their villages.
So you get there, you start reporting on this story. There's that bittersweet element of it that is the story. Just walk us through the reporting process.
Sure. I mean, you know, I don't think any of your viewers are not aware that Louisiana's losing coastal land, right? And so this mound is out in Plaquemines Parish. It's in the middle of the marsh. And like many other places, you know, that land is disappearing, including places, elevated places like mounds. So unfortunately, it's really a matter of time. This mound, which the tribe has just received, will be fully underwater.
How does the tribe feel about this? On one end, you get your land back, and land with such a rich history and what they were able to do to essentially get away from flooding, but now it's going away.
That's a great question. You know, you used the word bittersweet. That's definitely what's at play here. However, the tribe, you know, when I spoke to the elder, Rosina Philippe, they were still really grateful. This land is still sacred. Even if it's underwater, it's still really important to them.
And it's land that's important, the people that are important to so many down there, and the rich cultural legacy that is Plaquemines Parish. Curious as we wrap up here, though, when you talk about coastal erosion and the potential for federal dollars here, is it complicated that this is protected native land? You
know, not necessarily, and really the efforts around this restoration or the slowing of land loss are at a state level. CRCL, I mentioned earlier, they have programs like the oyster shell recycling program, which you might be familiar with, and they've actually built reefs around the mound to help protect that loss. But, you know, like I said, unfortunately, it really is an inevitability. It's a matter of time, and it will be gone forever.
Something that we all have to deal with here along the Gulf Coast. We talked about people reading the article, but you can actually hear the voices behind it, too, in the podcast.
Yes, absolutely. We have a new podcast at our newsroom, Gulf States Newsroom, called the Gulf States Gumbo. So you can hear Danny MacArthur, my reporting partner, and I go out. You can hear the sounds, you can hear the voices. So I really encourage your viewers, you know, to go check out our new podcast and listen to the full episode. Yeah, there's something about audio storytelling. If you know, when you're able to paint the picture with your mind, it's often magical, and you tend to understand the point a bit better, weirdly enough. Well, I'm a radio reporter, so I'm not going to argue with you there. I couldn't agree more. That's where I learned to write, too, so I do appreciate that. Drew, thank you so much for coming in. This is some great reporting, y'all, and if you want to read more about Drew's story and the Gulf Coast States Newsroom website, we'll link it to there on ours. Again, there's the podcast, too. A lot to dig into as we continue to explore the rich history and a lot of big questions about our future here at WWL Louisiana, also the partnership with Gulf States Newsroom. Again, Drew, thank you for coming in. Thank you for having me.